Okay, so a good friend of mine on Facebook asked if we would answer some questions about a painting he did of Mother Teresa and some of the emotions and the concerns that come up with that. And there was a story with that. And so that's what I'm doing, Chris. I'm answering the questions to the story of Mother Teresa. What impacted you the most from this story? I've known of this story for many years, and I think what impacted me the most was Mother Teresa's willingness to be with the dying who no one else wanted to be with. That she was not afraid to be compassionate to people that were dirty, that did not have much time left, had very ugly wounds, and yet she wanted to make sure that nobody had to die alone. That was her mission, and I think that's what impacted me most about her. Discuss an experience you have had when you gave, received, or witnessed compassion. As you know, most of my background in nursing was in oncology and hospice. So I have been so honored to be with people who are in transition. I think one of the most meaningful experiences that touched me in my career was when I was taking care of a young man who was dying with AIDS. And he was very afraid because he had been told he wasn't loved, that God did not love him. And his wounds were weeping all over his body, and nobody wanted to touch him. Everybody was afraid of him. But of course, we had proper attire whenever we went in to take care of him. But what touched me was the way that he would so, in such a precious way, look deep into my eyes and say, "Becky, does God love me?" And I would say, "Yes, God loves you very, very much. Don't ever forget that. You're so, so very beloved." The experience in having the hands-on and heart involvement with this young man have stayed with me forever. He taught me so much about being gay, dying with AIDS, dying with questions. But there were times that we joked, there were times that we laughed, and what he gave me was such a sense of power in knowing that what we can do in the space and place of a dying hour for another will be with us forever, all eternity. Number 3, what character traits hinder compassion in us? I think fear can sometimes be involved in being compassionate because we're fearful of a situation, we're fearful of how people are going to think of us, we're fearful of our response, their response. And the question with that is, why is it so difficult to be compassionate? I think compassion is a wonderful thing to teach your children, in not just in word, but in deed, because this will help the future generations to understand that they have a privilege to be compassionate, an honor to be compassionate, and that it will bless them in return. It is good for that maybe to even start with pets, to understanding how to take care of a pet and to love a pet and to be compassionate to the pet's needs. To be with a grandmother or grandfather, aunt, uncle, sibling, somebody in the family that may be going through a hard time physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. To be present to be with, to not be afraid to sit with, to not be afraid to not have all the answers, but to be compassionate, to be there. We may not always understand all of it. We may not be able to fix any of it. But when we sit alongside with others, that again teaches us great lessons for our lives on this side and the other side. Number 4, what do you think helps or causes people to become more compassionate? I think, just as I said, witnessing someone compassionate blesses many people. It blesses the one receiving compassion, it blesses the one who's giving the compassion, and it blesses those who are witnessing the compassion because they take that with them. And a lot of times studies show that they will in turn, within just a very few hours or moments, and show compassion to someone else. So yes, our world needs to see more, witness more, be more compassionate in all ways, especially right now when things are kind of crazy, to show compassion to everybody. Whenever I was working with the dying, it wasn't like I could pick and choose who I was going to be with. Because when I walked into that room, it did not matter to me what religion they were, what color they were, what their political views were, what their sexual preference was, from what part of the country they came from, what part of the world they came from. What mattered was they were a beautiful soul in a body that was challenged, and the suffering that was going on needed to be addressed. See, I couldn't always give them enough pain medicine to make it all better. But if I could be present to them and hear their questions, hear their concerns, hear their fears, sometimes that's the most important thing we do, is to listen to someone, and then praying with them according to their needs, according to their desires, was very, very appreciated as well in many, many cases. So Chris, I thank you for making this an opportunity for people to think about their compassion for others, and perhaps the compassion that they hope to receive themselves. Namaste, dear friend.